First, audio check. I have a very bad throat. So, how many of you are able to hear me? People at the back, you are able to hear me properly? Good. And so we'll talk about how you can do unit testing. So I'll also be talking about what is unit testing and give you a basics of unit testing. And then we'll talk about how you can do unit testing for WordPress. Okay. So before even we go there, how many of you know what is unit testing? Have you heard that term somewhere? Done something on it? Okay, great. So my name is Sudhar. I work for a company called Tenor. I'm a remote employee there, meaning I work from my bedroom. Yeah. So since I have to come to Pune, I have to shave and all that. Otherwise, you could get the idea. So I've been programming with WordPress for around 8 years now, and out of which 7 years was just out of passion, out of like a side project. So what I did is, like, the way I got into WordPress was I started my blog and I was using WordPress for it, and I was like starting to customize it, and that's how I learned WordPress. And what some of the customizations which I did, I distributed it as a plugin, and people had feature requests for it. So I implemented those features, and that's how things went on. And all the while, all of it was happening as a pet project, right, as a side project, something which I was not doing as a day job. And about a year back, so till then I was in a very steady corporate job. I was a research engineer at Yahoo Labs, so I was doing all those machine learning related research and things like that. And deep inside me, I was like always looking forward to come home and work on a WordPress project. That was always been the case. And about a year back, I kind of quit my corporate job, took a break for like 2 months. Then I was thinking what I should do. Then I said, okay, this is my passion. Let me turn my passion into my day job. And I started doing WordPress full time from time. Okay. So out of those 8 years, 7 years, it was a side project, and the last 1 year has been my professional or day job. Okay. And I'm a big fan of automating things. So if there is something which I have to do more than once, I generally spend my time, try to automate it. And unit testing is also one of those things, or I started doing unit testing because of that, right? So when we'll probably talk more about unit testing, but just to give you a glimpse of it, whenever you are, deploying something, or if you have created something and you have to deploy it or ship it to somebody, and at that particular point in time, you have to do the testing, right? So you would always face this issue of every time you get a bug, you have to fix it, redo all the testing from one more time, right? So that is where this unit testing got into me, because I can automate a lot of those things. So that's why I said I'm a big fan of automating things, and that's how it got me into WordPress. And I also contributed to a couple of open source projects. And as I said, I'm a remote worker at Tenor, and yes, Tenor is hiring. And if you want to work from your bedrooms like me, do contact me. Bedroom is always a thing. Okay, so before we get started, right? So I want to get a glimpse of you. I want to know what you guys do. So maybe like I have these 4 questions. I don't think we'll have time to go to each and every one of you. So I'll probably ask this question and give you different options, and you can raise your hand. Okay. What is your typical development environment? I use Vim. I know one more person who uses Vim like me. But what is your typical development environment like? NetBeans. Eclipse. Sublime. PHP strong. Okay. Vim anybody apart from me and Darshan? I'm not talking about the Vim cleaning.
Once in a while.
Okay, once in a while. Got it. So what is your experience in PHP and WordPress? So have you worked on PHP for like more than 2 years? How many years? Yes. Good. Less than 2 years? I don't know what is PHP. Okay, you are in the right session. And how many of you have done WordPress? So less than 2 years of WordPress? Okay, more than 2 years of development experience in WordPress. And I don't know what is WordPress. Okay, you have come to the correct concept. And what is the experience with unit testing? I have done some amount of unit testing. Okay, great. I want to do unit testing, but I have not done it so far. Okay, then you have come to the correct talk. And I don't care what unit testing is. So, what is your expectation out of this talk?
know what is it?
Learn about unit testing, how to implement it, how to implement unit testing.
Fully automated.
Test development. Test development.
Joint and up.
Joint and up. Who is that? Contact me offline. You know. We should definitely talk. Okay. So this I think kind of gives you an idea of what is unit testing. So basically you take your entire project, break it up into different components and test them individually.
Yes.
Okay? Okay, in this case it may not make sense, but I'll tell you like how unit testing would help you in your projects. Okay? Okay, so a bit of exercise. Can somebody find any issue? Okay, first of all, is there any issue in this piece of code? If yes, what is that issue? You can probably take 3 minutes. Yeah, 3 minutes. And by the way, this is in PHP. If you have not figured that out already. Try catch. Okay, it is. Yeah, it's basically throwing an exception. So whatever, you should probably use try catch.
They're not initializing the value.
Who said that? Explain here. You are not initializing.
Value. You are calling execute, so you are trying to read value, but value is never initialized.
Okay, this is snippet of PHP code, not the entire PHP file. Okay, so there's one issue which somebody already found. Are you able to find any other issue?
Catch the way you have initialized sample class.
This one? You say that we should have the brackets here?
Yes.
Okay, in PHP, if your constructor is not going to take an argument, the brackets are optional. It's not an error, it's still brackets. Okay, so that's a feature or quick of PHP. That's not an issue. But more from, like, don't look at it from a syntax perspective, look at more from a logical perspective. Yeah, initialize function. Somebody said about initialize function.
Is it called?
Is not called, right? So let's assume that this piece of code, right, this class was written by a developer, and this piece of code which is implementing that class or using that class is done by a different developer. Okay? So the developer of the class has assumed that whoever is calling the execute method would have called the initialize method before, right? So if you look at it, the first line itself checks if the value is set. There is no constructor. So if the execute method is going to be called directly, it is going to throw an exception. So the developer of the class took some initiative so that he is at least making sure that it's not empty. He made some initiative from his perspective, but the person who is supposed to implement the class or using the class has not read through the document or has not read through the source code or whatever, right? So he is missing the part that the initialize method should be called before the execute method. And if you look at it, it's not a syntax error. Most of the time, you may not have caught this, and unless and until it's a very specific corner case, which generally happens on a Friday night, early Saturday, early Saturday morning, just one day before you have to ship the code, you would find this, and then you have to frantically try to see how to fix it and things like that. Okay. By the way, there is also one more issue with this code. We will see if you guys can. I can give you probably 1 more minute to figure out if you're able to find that.
And you are returning value. It should be this value, right? Return value.
You got it. But that is logical. Yeah. What is happening is, so I'm comparing this and returning a value, and I'm not doing this part. So what would be the value of this variable?
Null.
Null into 10.
Null. Null exception.
And whatever is the value of initialize, that's not going to take any effect. It will just always return null. Maybe that's a very good catch, and most of us would miss that. So that drives the next point, right? Finding bugs in code by looking at it is very, very, very difficult. Even if you're going to execute it, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to find a bug in a code. And what people generally tell you, write tests. Right? It's very obvious. Problem is, it sounds obvious, but getting started, that's the hard part. Okay? And in this talk, I'm going to be talking about how you can make sure you can also start writing this. Okay? All of us are convinced that we should do some amount of unit testing.
Yes.
Okay, great. Let's move forward. Again, this boils down to the first slide which I showed, where we split the person into 3 different modules and then testing him independently. Right? Unit testing is important, but at the same time, unit testing should not be the only testing that you are doing. Right? If you look at the pyramid of testing, we have different layers at which we have to do the testing. So we have unit testing, functional testing, integration testing, and things like that. And as you go up the pyramid, your confidence in your entire system increases. Okay? So this is just like a disclaimer saying unit testing is important, but at the same time, it is not going to replace your functional testing. It will help you with your functional testing and integration testing, but it's not going to replace that. Okay? So keep that in mind. And I'm also going to be talking only about unit testing, not about functional and integration testing. You can continue to do it in the same way that you are already doing it. And if you're not doing it, then God help you. Okay, briefly, what is PHP unit? Right? And I'm not going to be talking about how to get PHP unit, from where you should download it, or how you should install it, or how you should configure it, for the simple reason that if you do a web search on any of your favorite search engine, that's going to be the first result. There is no point wasting time coming to a session. Right? So just do a web search on PHP unit, you would know how to install it, how to configure it, and all that. Most of the time, that would be your first link. Okay? So, but what I'll just talk about is, I'll just briefly tell you what is PHP unit for the people who have not heard of PHP unit before. It is a unit testing framework for PHP. There are also a lot of other unit testing frameworks for different languages. For Java, I think you have Java JUnit, and .NET you have NUnit, things like that. Okay. So this PHP unit is a unit testing framework for PHP. Okay, that's what we are going to be using today. And installing PHP, as I said, search in your favorite search engine to get installed. And I would recommend you install it using Composer. How many of you know what is Composer in PHP? Great. For the people who don't know what is Composer, it is a package manager which allows you to install different dependencies for your packages very easily. If you are a PHP developer, if you're not using Composer, make sure you start using Composer. Okay? And it is recommended that you install PHP unit with Composer because that makes it very easy for you. And what I will talk about is setting up your folder structure. Okay? So basically, once you have installed PHP unit and all that, how will you organize your project such that you have your source code and also your test files? Right? So that's something I'll talk about. And I'll also talk about the PHP unit.xml file. I'll not talk about all the configuration options, but I'll talk about the essential ones which you need to get started. Okay. So if you have, this is like typically the folder structure which is recommended for a project which is using PHP unit. So at the root you have your PHP XML file, PHP unit.xml file, which is your configuration file. Okay, and then you have a source directory inside which you would have your source files, and then you have a test directory inside which you would have unit test cases, because you could also have integration test cases like your function test cases and things like that. And inside that, whatever module you are going to be testing, in this case it's sample, and then your test cases. Okay, this is like the typical folder structure which is recommended, and you can probably follow something very similar. And PHP unit.xml file, right? So I'll briefly talk about that. So it's a configuration file. It's an XML file which is used for specifying your configuration, which PHP unit should read when you execute it. Okay. And it has like a lot of things which you can customize. The thing which I'm going to be talking more about is the test suite. Basically, this allows you to group your test cases into one single unit that can be run. For a project, if it's slightly big, you can split your project into multiple test suites and then execute the test suite based on what part of the project changed and things like that. Okay. So that's something which is important. And you can also group those test suites into different groups. So if you want more granular level control, and these are some of the configurations which you can pass, because PHP unit is going to be invoking PHP as a command line program, right? So if you want to specify certain INI parameters for PHP unit, you can specify those. Okay. And in addition to that, there are like tons of other things which you can configure. As I said, you can refer the documentation. Now let's get back to the presentation. Okay, so we talked about this. And we will now talk about what are the essential steps, or what are the different steps that are there when you write a test case. Right? So you want to test a particular functionality. And for that, you're going to be writing a test case. And each of those test cases would have these different steps. Okay? So you have a setup step, you would have an act step, and then you would have a verify step. Okay? So I'll again show you some code, talk about that. By the way, this is the sample PHP file which we have, and if you noted, this is changed. Okay. So this is a very simple test case. Okay. Basically, you have to require your source files. You can either auto-load it, or you can just use require include, or one of those ways. And the other important thing is, every class which is going to contain your test cases should extend from this class, PHP unit underscore framework underscore test case. So then this class becomes a test case. Okay? And you can have different methods in that class which would be doing as individual tests. Okay, so the method is called a test, and a collection of methods inside a class is called a test case. Okay. So as I said, there are three steps: the setup step, act, and verify. In the setup step, what we are going to be basically doing is initialize or set up everything that we are going to be doing the testing for. In our case, we are going to be testing the sample object, right? So the object which we create for the sample class. So that is the initialization or the setup that we need to do. So that is done in the setup case. Okay. And in the act case, we would actually be performing the operation that we want to test. In our case, we want to call the initialize method and then call the execute method. That is the operation which we want to test, or we want to make sure that the execute method is called before the initialize method. Right? So that is the act that we want to do. And in the verify case, what we would be doing is we would be comparing the actual value with the expected value. Okay? In this case, the expected value is 100, and the actual value is whatever we got in the act step. And we are going to be comparing that. And PHP unit has a lot of assertions. Assert equals is like one of the basic ones, which would take two parameters and compare them. So it will take the expected value and the actual value, and it will say whether the test case passed or not based on that. Okay, got it? So we would try to run this test case now. So we have all the things set up. All we need to do is just run the PHP unit command. Okay, when you run that command, it will read the configuration file. So it is read the configuration file, and it is running the test case. Every dot here represents each test, each method. Okay, and it will tell you how many tests were there, how many tests passed, and how many assertions were there. So in this case, we had one test and one assertion. Both of it are passed. Okay. Here I have shown you how you can run it from the command line, but depending on your IDE, you will be able to configure it such that you can run it inside your IDE itself. So I don't I'm just showing it from the command line so that once you know this concept, you can apply it to any IDE. So if you use PHP Storm or Eclipse, it will probably give you an option to run it from the IDE itself without leaving the IDE. Right? So you can make use of that depending on your IDE. And to quickly test things, right? What happens if it will fail, right? So for instance, let's say this was 101, right? So in this case, it should obviously fail, right? So when you run this, it will tell you that there is a failure. It will also tell you how many tests were there, how many assertions were there, how many failures were there. Okay, and you can also give custom messages. So here it is giving a default message which basically says we are expecting 101, but we got 100. Right? You can also customize this message if you want. This will be the default message. So let's get back to it. So as I said, this is our first test case, and we did it the basic, very simple test case, right? Now, if you looked at the original code, there was also another case. So if somebody called the initialize, the execute method without calling the initialize method, what should happen? You should throw an exception, right? Now we need to validate that also, right? So this is the test case for doing that. Since it's throwing an exception, there's a slight change in the way you are verifying that an exception is thrown. Okay. In this case, you will not have any assertion, but you will have a doc block where you would say at expected exception and then the class of the exception which you are expecting. In our case, we did any subclassing, right? So we were just throwing the parent exception class. If in your application, you may probably would have created an object or created a child which inherits from the exception class, created your custom exception, things like that. In that case, you would be specifying that class name. Okay. So this is how you would test and make sure that an exception is thrown. The reason why we have to do this is because PHP unit is also going to run your entire application, and when it throws an exception, it has to handle it, right? So that's the reason why we do it in this way instead of having an assertion. Okay. Let's quickly try this code as well. So this is the code we have, and let's run PHP unit again, and now it should say there are 2 tests and two assertions, and all of them passed. And you can also see 2 dot here. Okay, this is for basically if you have hundreds of tests, it will basically kind of give you some visualization of like how many tests are there. So far, any questions? So feel free to block me if you have any questions. We clear it right away. So you can start adding more tests like this. You can probably like start testing whether it works with decimals. Then we have like instead of 10, if you say 10.1, what happens? Will it work? You can also test with negative values and things like that. An interesting thing happens when you test it with 0. So before again testing it, going back to the initial code, right? Assuming that this is corrected, what happens if you pass 0? Oh.
Still throw exception.
So what happens when this is 0, right? You're not checking for 0, you're just using a Boolean operation. What happens? This gets converted into Boolean, and when you convert 0 to a Boolean, that will be false, and since not a false is true, an exception will be true, even though we have called the initializer. Right? This is again another corner case, which has a potential to ruin your Friday. Right? So another important reason why you should start doing unit tests. So let's briefly test that also. So this is with negative values. So negative value, all you need to do is like pass a negative value and then check your expected value. Right? So same thing you can do with decimals. So decimal, what happens if I say 10.12? So it should give me 101 dot. Right? That's the case. And in the case of 0, it should throw an exception. Right? That's your expected value. So let me run all the test cases together. So now we have 5 tests, 5 assertions, and all of them are passed. Right? So similarly, you can extend it, handle all your corner cases and things like that. Okay? So any questions so far in basic PHP unit testing? Good. So now we will go and see how we can do unit testing for WordPress. Right? So far we have seen how to do it for plain PHP code. Now we will see how to do it for WordPress. Even though WordPress is going to be just PHP code, there are certain things which we have to keep in mind when we test for WordPress. Okay, that's what we are going to do now. So this is like a typical function which you will have in your plugin or theme, right? Now the question is like, what are the things that should be tested in this? So what this function is doing, basically taking a post ID and calling the get permalink function, and before that it converts the post ID to integer by calling the abs in function, takes the permalink, applies a filter, does an action and returns it. Okay. In this case, what are the things we should test? So based on whatever we have learned so far, what do you think? What are the things that we should test in this?
Corner cases, if the post ID is not valid, there is no permalink.
Okay, that's something which you have to test. What are the other things you have to test?
Filters, is the filter being applied?
You have to check whether the filter was called.
Action, is the action
You have to
being
check whether
invoked?
the action is called. Right? What are the other things we have to check?
If the permalink is not on ID,
Okay, yeah, what happens if the permalink does not have an ID? But wouldn't that be handled by the get permalink function? So the point is, should we test the WordPress built-in functions or should we test only our code? The point I'm trying to make is, the responsibility of the get permalink function is that when you give a post ID, it should give you a permalink for that post. And if you give a post ID which is not there, it should give you null and all those things. But all those functionality is part of the get permalink function. And in your code, you have to test your code, not the built-in functions of WordPress. You get my point, right? Because in that case, when you do this, you have an assumption that WordPress is a dependency for me, and the code developers of WordPress have made sure that they have written the test cases for that. And when I'm using an external function or an external library function, I don't have to test those functions, but I have to make sure that I call that function with the correct parameters and things like that. Right? Because if you end up writing unit test cases for WordPress code, then you would never complete your project. You get the distinction, right? Difference between your normal PHP code testing and WordPress testing. Did you get it? All of you get it? That's like, if there is one important takeaway from this session, that's this. You get that point, right? And if you have questions on that, okay. So basically the things which we have to test are, we have to make sure that the ABSIN function is getting called, the getPermalink function is getting called, and whether it is getting called with this particular value that you pass in, and whether the filter is getting called, whether the action is getting called, all those things. Right? Okay. So, as I said, don't test WordPress built-in functions, but only test our code. So, since we don't want to test built-in functions, we have to, but at the same time, we have to make sure that those functions were called. Right? In that case, we have to use mocks. What is a mock? Mock is basically an object or a function that allows you to take an existing function's signature and create a mock out of it. So in our case, the getPermalink function, right? The getPermalink function accepts an integer value, integer argument, and it will return a string, right? So we need to mock it such that when our function is getting called, we can make sure that the permalink function was called and how many times was it called and with what value was it called and what was the value which was returned. Okay? So for all of that, we would be using mocks. And there is something called WP mock, which is a mocking library for WordPress. That's what I'm going to be using now. That would allow you to define that. So how does mocking WordPress function work? So the getPermalink function, right? So all we need to do is just do this. It will create a mock function for us. And what are the parameters for that? It basically says that it is a WP function, WordPress function. This is the name of the function. And it will take an argument. Okay? And we will pass this value as an argument to it. And it should be called once. You can also specify how many times it should be called inside that method. And you can also specify what should be the return value. Okay? Here both the args and return value can also be an array. Basically says that if it is 42, return this, if it is 43, return this, 44, return this. You can also specify it. Okay? So this is how you create a mock function for WordPress. Okay? Now when you do this, when you use this, what you can do in your function, you can make sure that the getPermalink function was called. It was called once, it was called with this value, and this value was returned. Okay? Similarly, if you want to mock a WordPress filter, right? What we need to do is like again using WP mock, we can say on filter. This is the name of the filter, and you can specify it should be called with this value, and it should return this value. So this happens when you have created a filter using add filter function, right? So we are mocking that functionality here. Same thing again, you can do it for actions. So actions are very similar to filters, where you can say expect an action, what is the name of the action, and what should be the value that should be passed to. Now, when we put everything together, this is how the test case for the getPermalink function would look like. Okay. So basically this is the setup step. All these things are the setup step. We are setting everything up, right? We are creating the mock for the function, the getPermalink function. We are creating the filter for the filter that we are using in the code. We are also creating a mock for the action that is there in the code. So all this thing is the setup part. And then this is the act part. So what we are doing, we are calling the actual function. So we are calling our function with this value, and go back. So what should happen? So if you pass some value to it, it should be converted to an integer, and that integer should be passed to the getPermalink function. And assuming, and you know what is the permalink for that particular post, right? So that would be your expected value. And this filter has to be called and this action has to be performed, right? So all those things you can test now. So you have passed 42 and so this function would return example.com/foo. That should be passed to the filter. So the filter should take this value and return this value, right? And with this value the action should be called that is also validated, and finally this value should be returned. That is your result. Okay, so this is your act space. This is your act step. This is your the second step where you actually do the execution, and this is your third step where you are doing the verify step, or where you are going to be verifying your result. And here we can just use the assert equal assertion. Okay, and this is our expected value, and this is your actual value. That is it. Okay.
So
Got it?
this code is going to fail, right? Until we have that filter. Until we do add filter and hook into a filter function.
Yes. Yeah, assuming that there's a filter, you take this value, return this value. So let's say that in your plugin, you have that filter, and you want to make sure that that filter is called, and that filter returns this value. All those things. Okay. Any questions on this? Good. So these are like some tips for doing unit testing or using PHP unit. The first thing is like make sure you have a very fast test suite. This is not because of a technical reason. This is purely for psychological reason. The reason being that if your test suite is very slow, then you would not run it on every save. You would only run it like once in a while, which would not get you the maximum out of your unit test cases. To get the maximum out of it, you should run it every time there is a change. Okay. To do that, you should probably have a fast test suite. Okay. That is one thing. Then, as I said, use Composer that handles all the dependencies for you, and it is very important. So, if you are setting up or installing PHP unit or setting up all the dependencies, use Composer. If you are a PHP developer, make sure you use Composer. Okay. And also the other thing is enable code coverage. So this is one sweet feature of PHP unit. What it does is like it gives you a visualization of how much code is covered by the different test cases. Okay. I can quickly show you how the test coverage reports will look like. So when you're running your PHP unit command, right, all you need to do is just say -f coverage and then the directory in which it has to be saved. When you do that, it will run PHP unit and it will also create the code coverage. Okay, let's check that. It basically creates a lot of HTML files. You are all able to see this? Right? Okay, so basically what it is going to say is, like it's going to tell you how many files are there, how much code coverage you have, and all those things. Here we have 100% code coverage, and if you click at that particular file, it will tell you how many methods are there, and it will also tell you what is the complexity and all those things. And the cool feature is if you hover over it, let's say if I hover over this particular line, it will tell me what are the test cases that have for this particular line. So you can find out each line, so what are the test cases that cover that particular line. Okay. And if you missed any particular line, if you don't have 100% code coverage, right, or if you missed some particular line, then you can visually see which code flow you are missing, and you can write your test cases for that. Okay. This is a very useful tool. Make sure you make use of it. When you run your PHP unit, all you need to do is like just specify the additional parameter, and then it will automatically do it. You just need Xdebug to be installed. Continuing on, the other important thing is, I told you about PHP unit.xml, right? It's a configuration file for a PHP unit. Most of the time what happens is, this is checked in as part of your repo, as part of your source control repo. Now, you may probably have modified certain things so that it runs on your local installation. Maybe you grouped it to a separate test suite or something like that. Now, the problem is, you cannot check in that change back to your repo, and every time you do git status, it's going to show that that file is modified, right? And you should always keep in mind that you modified that file. Whenever you are doing a git pull, you have to make sure that there is no merge conflict and things like that. Okay. For that, what PHP unit provides is there is a naming convention which it follows. Basically, instead of saying PHP unit.xml, you can also say PHP unit.xml.test. Okay. This file can be checked into your source control system. And in the directory, if you have only PHP unit.dist.xml.dist, then that would be used. Okay? If you have more, then this will be used. So in your source control, what you can do, you can add this file, which is like a common configuration for everybody in the team, and you can ignore this file. So if you want any specific user level configuration, you can put it in that file. Basically, it would make it much more smooth for you to have source control in your project. Okay, this is an important thing, especially if you are working in a distributed team. So you can make use of that. And the other thing is, we saw about the assertion, right? We saw assert inputs. So similarly, there are a lot of other assertions which are available. I think there are around 20 or 25 assertions available. You can check whether it returns an array. You can also check whether it returns an object with a specific function. You can check whether it's an associative array, whether the order is maintained, all those things. Okay. Use a very specific assertion as much as possible. Okay, that will also increase your efficiency of your unit test. And the other thing is, the important thing is, like, if you need more information about how to create unit tests, or if you need some proper examples, check out the core unit test for WordPress core. The last couple of releases, WordPress core have taken unit test cases seriously. Nowadays, if any command which goes into WordPress, you make sure that there is a corresponding unit test case for that. Okay, you can also check that out to figure out how to do unit testing. Or if you're interested in trying out unit test cases, first on a project which is real, but at the same time not your day job, you can try out this. If you go to WordPress track, there is a label which says that test case is required or unit test required. So you can try it out, submit your own patch. I think Satish is going to be taking a session on how to contribute to WordPress. You can attend this session to know how you can contribute back to WordPress. And if you are a beginner, this is a very, it's like basically getting two things out of it, right? So you also get to contribute to WordPress core. At the same time, you can also get your hands dirty with unit testing. Make sure you check that out. And so if you're creating a WordPress plugin, right, or a theme for that instance, and you want to have everything set up. So I told you about folder structure. I told you about the unit, how to set up your test cases. I told you about how to check your PHP unit, XML file, and all those things, right? So if you are starting a new project, you don't have to do this for each and every project. You can use this generator. There is something called Yoke, which is a generator which allows you to generate skeleton for a lot of projects. And then there is a WP Make for it, which allows you to generate skeleton for WordPress themes, plugins, and things like that. You can check that out. You can check that out, and you can use that to generate your skeleton file as well. Okay, I'll quickly show you how that skeleton looks like. So I just used it to create a sample plugin. So if you look at it, it would create a grant file for you, which will put your asserts. It will also create a test directly for you. It will also set up your composer, power, everything. You can just simply run unit test here, and it will be able to get the unit testing for you. Okay. And that's it. Thank you, guys. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm not sure if you have time for questions. I can take the questions now, or I'll be available outside. You can take the questions there also. I hope the session was useful to you. Thank you, guys.
Only kind of testing helps in front end, or just the functionality of the PHP that we are doing?
So it would help both in your front end and back end, but more so in back end, where it will basically help you in regression, right? So it will help you in regression. Regression is like, let's say you build something.
Like for custom post type.
Yeah. So let's say you're creating a custom post type. You're setting up labels, you're setting up a post structure and all those things. You're setting up a permalink, all those things, right? So you need to test those. You have to make sure that you pass the correct values for it. Or you have an
whatever
option.
the values are there, that values are getting retrieved from the database. So this test retrieves value from the database, or it's being tested manually?
So what happens generally is, like when you create a post type, you will be taking some values from the user input,
Okay.
right? And if the user inputs these or user selects these options, it should be transformed into a corresponding arguments for the register post type function. That is your business logic, right? You don't have to test whether if you call register post type function, which is a WordPress built-in function, whether the post type will be graded or not. But there is a transition that needs to happen from user input to the arguments that you have to pass to the register post function. That is your business logic. That may have corner cases and things like that. That you would be using unit test to test that. So the idea is like once you have this unit test, let's say you create something, you ship it, and customer reports a bug, so client reports a bug, you fix it, you fix that bug. But now you don't know whether you have introduced any other bug or this is going to break something else. But if you already have unit tests, all you need to do is just run the unit test. If there is something which broke, you
This kind of functionality is being overridden by Selenium also. Selenium extension that we use in Firefox.
Yeah, so Selenium will allow you to automatically create unit test cases for your front end. Right?
That too also is related to the same thing like functionality part.
So Selenium, it can basically say, it could be either you could call it unit testing, also functional testing, right? So you're not very specifically testing a specific unit, but you're also testing the functionality in Selenium. So it's a very gray area. You could call it functional testing. You can probably, some of it may also be called as unit testing. But unit testing would be more useful for you when you have to test your backend code or your business logic. Because that's where you would have a lot of these variations and complications.